contributes to their GDP is tourism. For most developing nations, the tourism industry is an export product that provides their much needed foreign exchange. In such developing countries like Ghana, a major problem associated with this industry is substandard service delivery at our tourism and hospitality facilities. This is often lamented by international tourists, hence the need to solve this problem by improving the human resources through education for the tourism industry to continue to play its intended role of earning foreign exchange for Ghana, even after the COVID-19 pandemic. As tourism is labor intensive and involves direct interaction between tourists and service providers, the lecture, which will be underpinned by two theories, the interactionist and human capital theories, will demonstrate the importance of tourism education for workers in the industry to solve the poor service delivery issue, which is the bane of the tourism and hospitality industry. This may justify creation of appropriate programs in tertiary institutions to train high-caliber employees for the tourism industry. Notably among these higher institutions is a Cape Coast Technical University, which offers tourism education to potential and present workers for the tourism and other service industries. Following after Smith, 1996, who identified the 4 H's as factors of ethnic tourism, for this lecture, the author introduces and explains some 5 A's as a main resource for tourism development. These are attractions, accessibility, accommodation, amenities, and administration. The speaker then goes on to outline the importance of administration, under which tourism education falls, and demonstrates its significance to the tourism sector in the country. The lecture will provide an understanding of the genesis of tourism and tourism education in Ghana. After these, the lecture will focus on the contributions of the author to the literature on tourism education, in particular, and the tourism industry in general. The lecture will demonstrate the importance of tourism education as a proverbial goose that can lay the golden egg of Ghana after COVID-19 by preparing graduates to make the tourism industry earn more foreign exchange for Ghana. Then will follow contributions of the professor to the tourism industry and tourism education in Ghana. The lecture will end with some conclusions drawn and recommendations made for the development of tourism education in Ghana. Finally, acknowledgements will be made by the professor regarding some individuals who have made remarkable contributions to his academic and professional and personal development. This is going to be a very good lecture. Interestingly, no questions are asked after an inaugural lecture is delivered. The speaker is allowed room to say anything that he wishes to say. We can't question him after that, but I hope he won't say anything negative about the institution. I know he won't do that. Ladies and gentlemen, I think at this stage we can all...
As you have been told, my lecture is entitled Tourism Education, Laying the Golden Egg for Post-COVID-19 Ghana. Prof. Chair, an important characteristic of the modern age is the relative ease of mobility. All right, let's go through the outline of the presentation. I'm not seeing the slides very well. Okay. So we'll go through the introduction and tourism as a global industry, relevance of tourism education. I say, please, can we move it a little? Then we'll go through genesis of tourism education, then problems of tourism education in Ghana, challenges with publishing in the polytechnics, then my contributions to the literature on the tourism industry, then my contributions to literature on tourism education, and there will be conclusion and recommendations. Then I will give an insight on my ongoing and future research, then there will be some acknowledgements. Modern age, the relative ease of mobility of people to travel across the globe for various reasons. This phenomenon has given rise to the speedy growth of tourism, which is defined by Goldner and Brenrichi, 2009, as the processes, activities, and outcomes arising from the relationships and the interactions among people traveling from normal place of residence, tourism suppliers, host governments, host communities, and surrounding environments that are involved in attracting and hosting of visitors. Tourism is also seen as a composite of activities, services, and industries that deliver travel experiences in transportation, accommodation, eating and drinking establishments, shops, entertainment, activity, facilities, and other hospitality services available for individuals or groups that are traveling away from home. The interaction between tourists and service providers and host communities has generated a lot of studies, including this present one. Furthermore, unlike primary products like minerals and cocoa, tourism is the only export product whose prices are not determined by external players. This makes the pursuit of tourism as an export commodity which can lay the golden egg of the foreign exchange that we need in our country, Ghana. However, the tourism sector is bedeviled by numerous problems such as lack of funds for attraction development, inaccessibility, and existence of poor services as these attractions and facilities. All right. We are going to look at tourism as a global industry. Tourism as a global industry. Please move to. The importance of tourism as a global industry is well documented. Jake, 2003, Swabrook have all written about that. Tourism plays a very vital role in the economies of nations, as I've mentioned. In 2018, before the outbreak of COVID, the tourism industry had generated about 10.4% of world gross domestic product and a similar share of employment, and has shown resilience over the past decade. International tourist arrivals grew by 5% in 2018 to reach the 1.4 billion mark, a figure that was reached 2 years onto the UNWTO forecast. At the same time, export earnings generated by tourism had grown to 1.7 trillion. And it had created about 25 million jobs in Africa. Tourism has therefore got the ability to help countries in realizing, in the realization of goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals, of achieving quality education through well-trained and skillful workforce, which is crucial for the prosperity of nations. This called for higher investment in education and vocational training, especially for tourism service providers to render quality service to their patrons and tourists. As an important export product, tourism is also known to grow, to increase export revenues, the golden eggs which are controlled externally. Now we look at tourism potentials of Africa. Africa accounts for 5% of global tourism arrivals, and about only 4% 4% of tourism receipts since the 1990s, but tourism has increased considerably and has contributed to the Africa's growth, employment, and external trade. During 1995 to 2014, international tourist arrivals in Africa grew at an average of 6% per annum and 9% per annum, according to UNCTAD 2017. The average total contribution of tourism to Africa's GDP increased from 69 million US dollars, 69 billion US dollars in 1985 to 1998 to about 166 billion US dollars in 2011. And this translates to 7.1% of all jobs in Africa. So we can see that Africa's tourism potentials are enormous. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, international tourist arrivals to Africa were projected to continue to increase robustly from 85 million in 2020 to 134 million arrivals in 2030. After COVID-19, however, these figures have been missed because the pandemic has ravaged all industries globally, with the travel and tourism industry being severely hit in 2020, due mainly to restrictions to international travel and mass tourism. Let's go to Ghana. In Ghana, though tourism has been the fourth highest foreign exchange earner after minerals, timber, and cocoa, the country earned about 2.655 million US dollars in receipts from international tourist arrivals in 2018, according to GTA 2019. While the tourism industry generated direct and indirect employment to 543,000 people in 2018, from 392,000 in 2015. Excuse me. However, the same statistical fact sheet from GTA shows that the contribution of tourism to the nation's gross domestic product decreased from 5.6% in 2017 to 5.5% in 2018. This trend might have resulted from the discovery of oil in the country since 2010. Overall, these statistics show that the growth of tourism in Ghana is quite mixed and needs some critical attention, especially to boost its growth, its contribution to the nation's GDP. This will depend to a greater extent on the degree of improvement in quality service delivery at attractions and facilities as a result of improved tourism education. Harnessing the potential of tourism in Africa as a developmental tool will therefore require education and skills training of service providers for the provision of quality tourism services at the nation's tourism attractions. Now we go to the next slide. We're going to look at resources for tourism development, and under this, we will go through the theories underpinning the presentation. Prof. Chair, this lecture is underpinned by two theories. 88 in tourist typologies and Fallon Smith's 1996, as well as the human capital theory that is defined as an all human abilities, either innate or acquired, which are valuable and can be augmented by appropriate investment. to Cohen and Smith, tourism thrives on the interaction between tourists, their hosts, and the environment, be they human or otherwise, involved in the tourism system. According to Smith, in these interactions, there are 4 H's as factors of ethnic tourism. It's the next slide. But also to manage them, be they natural or artificial. In the same way, transportation facilities for tourism development are owned and are or managed by individual human beings. Accommodation facilities such as hotels, guest houses and inns are all owned and managed by human beings. Let's look at some of the attractions that we have in Ghana on the next slide. Canopy Walkway, Kakum National Park, the Willie Waterfalls, and Kwame Mausoleum. These are all attractions that have been developed. Now we go to a very important question. Can tourism education really lay the golden egg to ensure that the nation obtains the much needed foreign exchange for development? What is notable about these human beings who need to be trained to manage their resources to make tourism possible is that they are all given specific education and training that enable them to work efficiently in the tourism system. So under administration is the list of marketing intermediaries who make tourism possible by acting as interface between the tourism industry and the customers. This includes tour operators, travel agency management, forest bureau managers, travel writers and managers of tourist information centers. This last but not the least A of administration is very important because tourism as a labor-intensive industry flourishes on the interaction between guests, hosts, and service providers. No wonder that tourism education and awareness is the 8th strategic key for the nation's development. See page 9 of Ghana's Tourism Policy 2012. This means that tourism thrives well on the participation of individuals who, as a result of education received, are skilled enough to provide essential services to the tourists, who are also becoming sophisticated and demand quality at all times from their hosts. Now let's move on to relevance of tourism education. Prof. Chair, in spite of the importance of attractions, accessibility, accommodation, and amenities, the relevance of tourism administration, under which tourism education falls, cannot be overemphasized. Because the development of tourism is dialectically conditioned by the provision of tourism education and training for workers in the sector, according to Rakadista 1990. It is these workers who will operate, maintain, and help to sustain all the other resources of tourism. As a result, it was decided to focus my professional attention on tourism education as an area of specialization. In pursuant for the application of human capital development, tourism education has been realized to be necessary for developing and preparing qualified personnel for service delivery in the tourism industry. Because many training programs directed towards improved skills such as food production, hotel housekeeping, ticketing for airlines, tour guiding are available in the tourism industry. There is 1976 classical view of education outlined earlier on was held completely by most educationists. This was because Gunn, 1984, has argued that formal education is known to be highly structured and encourages analytical thinking. This view was later re-echoed by Achampong 2008, who described tourism education as the encouragement of analytical thinking and understanding of conceptual issues in order to contribute to the professional and technical development of a people in a formal setting. The traditional view towards education and training suggests that while education is for professionals, training is for artisans and the unskilled. But training can no longer be considered as a strict, on-the-job, ongoing, non-terminal process as a combination of new information technology and economic globalization has resulted in changing the traditional view towards education and training. As both can take place outside a school or industrial environment. Tourism training has also been described by Lavery, 1989, as the delivering of practical knowledge, skills, and techniques needed to work in the tourist industry. The success of tourism education and training will therefore hinge on the development and use of appropriate and relevant curriculum that will help in the preparation of the human resources needed to achieve the objectives of a tourism development. Christo, 1999, had opined that while tourism and hospitality education is best provided by tertiary institutions such as universities and technical universities like ours, training is provided by employers, entrepreneurs, and organizations. According to an earlier explanation interweaving tourism education, Lavery pointed out that education and training is taken to mean educational and vocational training in courses covering the whole field of higher education, from technical colleges through to universities, which are aimed at raising the level of skills and knowledge needed to work in the tourist and other industries. From the quotation above, an acceptable tourism education is one that incorporates elements of training. It will therefore be prudent for tertiary institutions to combine the provision of education and training for their students based on a curriculum that includes both theoretical education and some practical training in the form of continuous and graded internship or industrial attachment. This will definitely help to improve the efficiency of the labor force for the tourism and hospitality industry. It is little wonder, therefore, that over the past 2 decades, much attention has been paid both at national and international levels to tourism education. Government, especially in developing countries such as Ghana, have since then recognized the need for the provision of a highly skilled and trained labor force to meet the demands of modern economy, including the tourism and hospitality industry. According to Wang 2008, tourism is a person-to-person activity with its quality depending upon the education and motivation of its employees. Thus, tourism education is important to improve the abilities of employees and consequently promote the capabilities of the tourism industry. According to the theory of human capital, which was first proposed by Professor Theodore Schultz, education is the key to the development of human capital, and with its main function being to strengthen people's ability to deal with uncertainty and help solve problems in their industry of concern. From the point of view of the theory of human capital, tourism education, therefore, aims to enhance the ability of people in dealing with uncertainties in the tourism industry and managing future changes in the labor market globally. Tourism education, often as a starting point in the training and development of human capital to undertake occupations in the tourism industry, not only adds value, but also raises personnel quality and infuses a sense of tourism professionalism, and also serves to sustain the local communities that underpin successful tourist destinations. To a larger extent, tourism education acts as a strategy for promoting sustainable tourism development. In the lead in the provision of tourism education and training, as well as the establishment of higher professional institutes, such as the Swiss Hotel School in Johannesburg. This gave a boost to tourism education and training at the tertiary level in South Africa, as the training of more tourism professionals. In Ghana, tourism education was introduced at the tertiary level about 2.5 decades ago, according to Achampong 2008. Introduction of tourism education at the tertiary level was informed by two main motives. The first, to educate people to undertake teaching and research in tourism studies so as to add to the knowledge in that field. And secondly, the need to educate high caliber personnel who will provide quality service and administration or supervisory role for tourism facilities in the country. Levis 2005 has stated earlier that provision of quality education and training to the people who work in the tourism industry could help in the sustainability of the industry. The University of Cape Coast, UCC, was the first tertiary student in the country, tertiary institution in the country to offer undergraduate and postgraduate courses in tourism in 1996, Champon 2008. This was aimed at preparing students for managerial positions in administration and tourism and hospitality industries, as well as faculty appointment in the country's tertiary institution, such as Cape Coast Technical University. In 2000, the Cape Coast Polytechnic, now Cape Coast Technical University, also started a higher national diploma program in tourism studies so as to fulfill one of its mandates. That is to provide opportunities for skill development in tourism and hospitality studies. This was followed by the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Kumasi, where a tourism and culture program was started in 2005, and later a BSc and MSc Hospitality and Tourism Management in its business school. Of late, other public and private tertiary institutions in the country, such as GIMPA, the Regency University College, Zenith University College, all in Accra, as well as the whole Tamale, Koforidua, and Takoradi Technical Universities have started degree programs in either tourism or hospitality management, or both. It is left with us to start our 4-year BTech, and I hope maybe within a year or two we'll start. Finally, University of Ghana, Legon has also started a master's degree in hospitality and tourism management at the business school. All these institutions are aiming at helping to develop the human resources needed to meet the demands of the nation's growing tourism and hospitality industry. These decisions by tertiary institutions in the country attest to the importance of tourism education, to the objective of making tourism an important foreign exchange earner for the country. Problems associated with tourism education in Ghana. Prof. Chair, it must be noted that providing tourism education in Ghana entails dealing with specific problems The first one involves the problem of not having easy avenues for students' practical training with industry. Being practical in nature, the teaching of tourism education demands the practical hands-on training of students at the tertiary level. This is always possible during industrial attachment when the students are on holidays and are expected and are accepted by these industries to have practical experiences in their facilities. However, during the semester, when the students are on campus and are expected to supplement classroom teaching and learning with practical training in tourism and hospitality services, such as housekeeping, there is always lack of transportation facility to send them to nearby hotels, guest houses, or the national park. Another problem is the absence of continuous professional development of teachers and instructors who must be abreast with current practices in the hospitality and tourism industry. Just as tertiary tourism students need to spend time on industrial attachment for practical experience, their teachers must also do the same in order to be abreast with modern trends in the tourism and hospitality industry. This is, however, not always possible, as tourism teachers seem to prefer academic development to gaining industrial practical experience that does not count for their promotion as compared to the former. At times, there is also the non-availability of resource persons from industries whose expertise may be needed to let the students understand how working in the real-world industrial environment felt like. Though a few entrepreneurs and managers in the tourism industry are willing to be invited to lecture or to talk to students about what is ongoing in the industry, most of these people do not have time to meet students on campus. Such industry players are mostly considered as role models by tourism students who are motivated to enter the industry after graduation. This is good because research has noted that less than 40% of tourism graduates choose to work in the industry after graduation. Another major problem faced by tourism teachers is the inability to tour important tourist sites in the country, as well as tourism destinations for industrial trips. This shortcoming limits the ability of the students to know much about important problems associated with tourism attractions in the country, such as poor accessibility, expensive nature of accommodation facilities, lack of support from rural communities to sustainability of tourism projects, especially those located in some rural communities, and the absence of well-packaged local foods that are at times sought after by international tourists visiting attractions in the country. Most importantly, there is lack of tourism education at the pre-tertiary level in Ghana. Unlike a subject such as agriculture, there is lack of the exposure of tourism at senior high school levels in the country, as a little mention of tourism is still confined primarily to the social studies curriculum. This makes the tertiary level the first time that students get to study tourism. Such an issue does not help the students much, as they lack some fundamentals in the study of tourism, such as who is a tourist, and as the distinction between a tourist, a day tripper, and an excursionist. If they were introduced to tourism education at the senior high school level, they will have benefited from such issues, such as the importance of environmental greening for tourism development, as well as appreciate the importance of the relationship between tourism and the environment. Finally, the tourism policy of Ghana 2012 places enormous responsibilities for the development of tourism on the various metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies. Unfortunately, most of these MMDDAs lack both tourism officers and tourism professionals to help develop and implement tourist development plans to these local government agencies. It must be noted, however, that the Ghana Tourism Authority, which has the mandate to implement tourism development has offices located only in the regional, national and regional capitals without any representations in the MMDAs. This is a great disincentive to the development of tourism in the country, as those who have received tourism education roam the streets of the country in search of jobs when their expertise could have been utilized by the various MMDAs for tourism development in their localities. Now, I'm coming home. Challenges with publishing at the polytechnics, now technical universities. Prof. Chair, before the conversion of polytechnics to technical universities, most of the teachers in the polytechnics were less visible from publications as a result of four main issues. First, due to inadequate staffing at the polytechnics, especially at Cape Coast Technical University, Cape Coast Polytechnic, the few teachers employed had to teach a great number of courses. This large extra teaching loads prevented most of the teachers from conducting research whose results could have been published. Secondly, as a result of the first problem, most of the teachers in the polytechnic were not challenged enough to publish. Thirdly, unlike our colleagues in the public universities who teach undergraduate and postgraduate students, teaching higher national diploma students was a disincentive to publication, as only a few of such students could be assisted to collect data that was publishable. Finally, a few of us who were challenged to publish, including Professor Ansar, we had to do so in journals that were offline. For example, I published most of my papers in either the Journal of Polytechnics in Ghana, JOPOG, the Journal of Educational Management, GEM, or the Ugwa Journal of Social Sciences, which were all offline. It was later that some of us had to upload all our initial papers with the help of Papa Kizai onto academia.edu and Google Scholar, therefore accounting for our low citations on Google Scholar. So I know nowadays lecturers here are going to focus on publishing in high impact journals so that we can also be visible. My contributions to the literature on tourism and hospitality industry. Prof. Chair, my contributions to the literature on tourism education began modestly with a joint publication with Professor Kweku Boakye of UCC in 2008. It was a chapter in a book entitled Tourism in Ghana, A Modern Synthesis, edited by Dr. Ohineba Achampon and Professor Alex P. Asiedu of the University of Ghana, Legon. It was entitled Domestic Tourism in Ghana. It was a research work undertaken at Ghana's most visited ecotourism attraction, the Kako National Park, using secondary data to compare visitor facility numbers and receipts from domestic and international tourists from 2004 from 2000 to 2004. Among other findings, the study revealed that not only were domestic tourist numbers higher than that of international tourists, income received from domestic visitors to that attraction were also higher than that of international visitors. This finding corroborated earlier findings elsewhere that domestic tourism figures in most countries exceeded that of international tourists. The study also showed that there was a generally low level of public awareness of existing tourist attractions in the country. Go back. However, school children patronize the country's tourist attractions more than adults. Poor road infrastructure leading to the attractions and poor quality service delivery at attractions in the country were also documented. After this initial contribution to the tourism literature, I have published substantial individual and other co-authored papers in refereed journals In addition, I have other conference papers presented both internationally and externally. These are also partly individual presentations with other co-authors. Out of my publications, either in the referred journals or in conference proceedings, 22% were on tourism development, 27% on hospitality management, only 4% on tourism entrepreneurship, while 51% were on tourism education. These statistics attest to my inclination for studies in tourism education. Moreover, while I singly published 64% of my works, 36% were joint publications. Most of my papers on tourism education were obtained from the results of a tracer study conducted and used for my PhD thesis at UCC in 2012. The sample of 205 respondents selected through snowball sampling were graduates who had received HND tourism education at Cape Coast Polytechnic, now Cctu, between 2003 and 2008. The results of the tracer study, the first of its kind in any tourism program at the tertiary level in the country, proved to be very insightful. In addition to this, I have published an e-book, Ecotourism in Ghana, an introduction, which is available on amazon.com. My contributions to tourism development. Prof. Chair, on tourism development, my contributions have generally been on community participation in ecotourism projects using the Bia National Park in the Western North region as a case study, transportation and tourism development in Western region of Ghana, environmental management for tourism promotion in and around the oil city of Sekondi Takoradi, souvenirs and tourism promotion, and an appraisal of the environmental impact assessment for the expansion of Ghana's D3 thermal plant implications for tourism development. Through these publications, I was able to prove that the dependence of the local people on environmental resources was a major hindrance to the sustainability of the national park, and that provision of alternative livelihoods is a panacea to poaching in the park. Also, I was able to show accessibility of attractions has negatively affected tourism promotion in the western region of Ghana due to the region's poor transportation network. In my paper on souvenirs and tourism promotion, I used products at the Accra Arts Center to show the importance of souvenirs to tourism promotion. However, the caution to souvenir producers was the need to pay attention to proper treatment of raw materials, good finishing of their products, and attractive packaging that will meet international standards, without neglecting the issue of authenticity in their production of souvenirs for tourism development in Ghana. My paper on environmental management in and around the oil city of Sekondi Takoradi noted the imminent problem of congestion and environmental degradation and offered some recommendations. These included encouraging the oil companies to build high-rise accommodation facilities for their staff, establishment of a Western Corridor development like SADA and SEDECOM by the government, and the establishment of a petroleum museum by the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board for tourism development. Still on the environment, my paper that examined the EIA for expansion of Ghana's T3 thermal plant, outlining its implications for tourism development in an area around Abuazi, also made some findings and recommendations, among which was the exclusion of the local people from participation in the EIA survey. That was not a good idea. And the need to simplify the EIA document to make them understandable to people without much technical knowledge in its preparation. Most of these documents are prepared by highly technical people, and the local people cannot understand it. So there's a need to reduce such documents for the local people to be able to understand. My contributions to hospitality management. Regarding my contributions to the literature and hospitality industry, my paper on sports stories about service quality in Ghanaian hospitality industries during CAN 2008, applying service quality gaps identified by Parasuraman et al. 1995, revealed that a gap existed between perceptions of service producers and that of the tourists, who mostly preferred local cuisine, which were absent as our facilities. Among the recommendations were the need to present well-packaged local foods and provision of in-service training to improve the skills of employees. Next, the study of events organized by the hospitality industries in Accra, Ghana, used 2 hotels to prove that even though organization of events is not a key function of hotels, these hotels had departmental managers who had expertise in managing events such as conventions and corporate meetings. The results showed that most of these clients' expectations were not fully met. So it was recommended that time management and the need for feedback from event attendees were necessary to ensure successful event management by hospitality facilities. The next set of hospitality papers, titled The Use of ICT, that was a joint paper, use of ICT by some selected hotels in Aguna-Swedru, revealed that ICT tools mainly used internet facilities for reservation and communication both by managers and the guests. It was also found out that most of the employees had low ICT literacy rates, so they needed to upgrade that knowledge, and that management of the hotels needed to adopt high-quality ICT tools for improved performance of their activities. On motivation and improvement in employee performance in the restaurant industry, this study conducted in Cape Coast using 5 restaurants revealed that the employees were more satisfied with extrinsic rewards, such as provision of free meals and end-of-year parties thrown for them by management. Also, the results of the study showed a positive relationship between motivational factors and high performance of restaurant employees. The paper on safety and security in the Ghanaian hotel industry used some selected hotels in Accra as a case study. The paper revealed that more international tourists than domestic travelers in the hotels during the time of the study, and that most of the respondents lamented over the high price charged by the hotels. It was also revealed that some of the workers did not know how to operate the fire extinguishers around. It was therefore recommended to management of the hotels to ensure that the employees and guests around must be trained on how to operate safety hotel gadgets. The paper on customer retention in the Ghanaian hospitality industry, determinants and expectations, was undertaken in 4 hotels in Kumasi and revealed that most customers had information from the hotels from friends and relatives and had been retained by the hotels due to their satisfaction with services provided by the workers of that hotel. However, it was noted that the hotels needed to operate good websites that have sufficient internet-based adverts to attract and retain high-spending guests. Prof. Chair, I'm almost concluding. My contribution to the literature on tourism education. As stated earlier, the papers that constituted my contribution to the literature on tourism education emanated mostly from my PhD research work, Application of the theory of human capital to tourism education was to ensure that our graduates were prepared to enhance their performance and potential in any organization they joined. This also relates to the individual's capabilities, knowledge, skills, and experience acquired as they work as employees or managers of the organization. Underpinned by this theory, my initial work that looked at the occupational distribution of tourism graduates confirmed that not only 40% of tourism graduates found themselves in the tourism and industry. However, most of these graduates in the industry were managers of some of the highly rated hotels in the country. This paper recommended that internship for tertiary tourism students with the industry must be mandatory and graded for graduates to be well prepared for them to choose jobs in that sector after graduation. The next tourism education paper was an evaluation of the HND tourism curriculum used to prepare the graduates for the world of work. The paper revealed that tourism courses on the curriculum exceeded hospitality courses, but there was the need to have hospitality appear in the course for the employers to know that the student did not only study tourism, but hospitality courses. This, however, was not agreed by the academic board. It was therefore little wonder that almost all tertiary education institutions offer hospitality and tourism programs. The other paper that assessed the effectiveness of internship in tourism education lamented over the non-scoring nature of internship in the tourism curriculum and recommended a grading of internship undertaken by the graduates for it to appear on their transcript so as to improve their job acquisition prospects. One of the papers that evaluated teaching methods used for knowledge retention in tourism education revealed that lecturing and discussions dominated the methods used by the teachers. It was therefore recommended that innovative pedagogical strategies such as program-based learning and individual and group presentations must be adopted for teaching to enhance knowledge retention and employability of tourism graduates, students after graduation. Next, relevance of the tourism curriculum used for preparing graduates for the tourism industry was assessed. Some of the graduates ranked tourism businesses courses such as human resource management in hospitality industry higher as a course that aided their employment. Among recommendations made was that the industry must not only sponsor student research work, but must also make inputs into tourism curriculum development so that education will prepare students with skills needed by industries. Stressing on the importance of human capital development for employability of tourism graduates, 3 papers were published explaining the relevance of tourism education and preparing employees for the industry. The paper entitled Employability Skills, Perspective from Employers and Tourism Graduates revealed that there were slight differences in what constituted employability skills needed by industry and what the graduates acquired from tourism education. The paper concluded that though some skills were considered more important by the employees, the graduates had different views on what constituted relevant skills that were bringing educators to collaborate with the industry in order to factor their inputs in designing the curriculum for tourism education. The next paper, Employability of Tourism Graduates, Lack of Relevant Skills or Job Avenues, used gap analysis to compare the views of employers and graduates, whilst the employers considered communication and problem solving among essential skills. The graduates thought computer skills and good examination grades were essential for their employability. The paper concluded that though the tourism industry needed graduates with specific skills and industry requires specific skills that industry requires, education was aware of these skills. However, there were insufficient vacancies for all graduates, some of which needed to be encouraged to start their own businesses. The last paper in this area was an assessment of the performance of tourism graduates by comparing the views of employers and tourism graduates in some performance appraisal of the graduates. While the employees rated their own performance mostly as excellent and very good, the employers thought that the performance of most of the graduates was just good and satisfactory. Among recommendations of the paper were that employers must encourage self-appraisal of the employees in the performance appraisal, so as to let the employees feel to be important stakeholders in the business entity, and feedback of performance appraisal to inform development of policies for improved performance and increased productivity of their organizations. My contributions to entrepreneurship education. Prof. Chair, my last papers to be reviewed are those on entrepreneurship education and job creation for tourism graduates and effectiveness of entrepreneurship education in the curriculum of technical vocational education training, TVET, institutions in Ghana. These studies reveal that although the rate of unemployment in Ghana is growing by leaps and bounds, only few tertiary graduates go into self-employment after graduation, in spite of the entrepreneurship education received. The studies therefore recommended that entrepreneurship education must be more practical in nature, must be taught by teachers who are themselves entrepreneurs, and that this important aspect of education must start at the pre-tertiary level. Most importantly, it was further recommended that entrepreneurship education must be taught in the last but 3 and last but 2 semesters for utmost benefit to the students. Finally, it was recommended that business resource centers for business incubators must be established in tertiary institutions where entrepreneurship is taught for students to establish their own businesses before completion. Or fund for entrepreneurship must be set up with teachers as advisors so that tourism students who study entrepreneurship are encouraged to set up their own businesses whilst at school. Conclusion and recommendation. Various components of the tourism system and outlining my various contributions to the literature on tourism and hospitality industry, you will agree with me that quality of tourism education for sustainability of the tourism industry in the country, even after COVID-19, needs to be given much priority. A country may have all the tourism resources, such as notable attractions to all infrastructure, without a well-educated and highly skilled workforce to manage, administer, and provide quality service to tourists visiting the attractions. Sustainability of the country as a tourism destination will be a mirage. Sustainable tourism development that could help to improve the contributions of tourism to the country's GDP and foreign exchange earnings will hinge on improvement of tourism education and training given to workers in the tourism hospitality industry, especially by the country's tertiary institution, including the Cape Coast Technical University. Cooperation between the managers of the tourism industry and education institutions preparing the workforce for the industry will influence the ability of the latter to churn out the best workforce for the long-term benefit of the country as a notable tourism destination. It is worthy to note that unlike traditional subjects such as geography, history, and agriculture, tourism has not received much attention on the pre-tertiary education curricula in Ghana. While these social science and general science subjects are studied from primary through junior high school, senior high school to the tertiary level, the same cannot be said of tourism. If tourism is studied at all at the pre-tertiary level, it is studied as a minute aspect of the social or environmental studies curriculum. This does not augur well for popularizing the subject for it to catch the attention of the youth in order to build their interest in this all-important subject with a great export potential. Studying the subject at the basic school through the senior high school level can motivate most of the youth in the country to develop an interest in tourism education so that they will study it in order to contribute to improving its quota to the foreign exchange needs. Export crop whose prices are not determined by the external buyer. Recommendation, Prof. Chair, based on conclusions from the lecture, the following recommendations are preferred. 1. There is a need for the integration of the teaching of tourism into other subjects such as geography, history. I know environmental studies, and I know my friend Professor Kakambodu may not agree with me, but we need tourism to be integrated so that it will develop the interest of our youth in the area also. There is a need for curriculum designers at the pre-tertiary level to include tourism in the subjects that are integrated into the social studies syllabus. Social science subjects that readily come into mind are geography, history, economics, and sociology. It will be agreed that tourism is a discipline that shares borders with all these social science disciplines. On the other hand, if tourism is to be taught on its own at the pre-tertiary level, then it also needs then there is also the need to encourage the writing and publication of local textbooks on this travel industry to be used not only at the pre-tertiary level, but also at the colleges of education, if the country wants to see tourism education being given priority in the education system at the lower level. This will encourage more research work in tourism and hospitality for people to read and appreciate its importance to the national economy. There is a need for tourism education providers to deepen their collaboration with tourism and hospitality industry for 4 main benefits. First, as a result of this collaboration, tourism industry players will readily be prepared to offer places for attachment training to their students so as to improve their practical training and experience at the actual workplace and possibly employ some of them after graduation. Secondly, industry practitioners will let tourism educators know the demands of industry so that tourism education is tailored to meet the needs of the industry. Thirdly, with this collaboration, tourism industry practitioners will be prepared to act as resource persons who are occasionally invited by tourism educators to give talks to tourism students for them to know what really to solve problems in real life situations after graduation when they start their own businesses. Fourth, such collaboration will enable teachers and instructors to also benefit from industrial attachment with industry so as to improve upon their practical teaching for successful teaching and learning in tourism education. Furthermore, there is a need to create avenues for students receiving tourism education and training at the tertiary level to be able to visit most tourism attractions in the country as well as others in Ghana's neighboring countries. This will enable the students to know and understand whatever is going on in the attractions and be able to describe them and their locations to potential international tourists who may care to know This can be possible when appropriate buses are provided to the Tourism and Hospitality Department by the government and other private organizations. On the other hand, faculty members of tourism education institutions could write research proposals for international organizations from which they could obtain funds to purchase vehicles to facilitate their tour of attractions in the country and others in neighboring countries. Finally, to fully implement the tourism policy of Ghana, the various MMDAs should be encouraged to open district offices in the various assemblies to augment the activities of the regional offices of the GTA to ensure efficient and effective supervision of tourism facilities in their localities. The government must increase the budgetary allocation to the GTA for effective work not only in the regions, but also in the MMDAs, instead of giving only lip service to improving the tourism industry in the country. Empowering the GTA can help them to improve monitoring of tourism facilities in the country and also collaborate with higher education institutions offering tourism education in the country to train highly skilled labor to the tourism industry to enable tourism to become a very important foreign exchange earner, for it to become the proverbial goose that could lay the golden egg for the country even after the COVID-19 pandemic. Ghana. This will agree with me that the Ghanaian environment is becoming degraded and less attractive due to the negative human activities on our landscapes and water bodies, with galamseyers activities involved in illegal small-scale mining being the worst offenders. Most of the research work on the galamsey menace have focused on polluted water bodies in Ghana, as well as destruction of agricultural lands, leading to food shortages, water treatment problems, and reduction in cocoa production. Though my ongoing and future research will not depart very much from tourism education, I'll be focusing more on the examination of the effects of illegal mining on the tourism industry. As the environment and tourism are known to be bedfellows, the destruction of the landscapes and water bodies will definitely affect tourism development and vice versa. A knowledge of the extent of tourism education, Prof. Chair, I will be focusing more on the examination of the effects of galamsey on the tourism industry, as the environment and tourism are known to be bedfellows. The destruction of the landscapes and water bodies will definitely affect tourism development and vice versa. A knowledge of the extent of the impact of the environment on impact of the destruction of the environment on the tourism industry will help speed our quest to place a halt on activities that are destroying our water bodies and landscapes. Prof. Chair, my audience, thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think I would like to invite the family of Professor Samuel Benjamin Owusu-Mintah to come forward to congratulate you.
Prof. Chair, Vice Minister. I was very proud. Reason being that he's been the first person to deliver an inaugural lecture in the Technical University of Ghana. Thank you very much.